In the heart of Hollow Creek, an abandoned house sits atop a hill, its windows shattered and its doors hanging off their hinges. The locals whisper tales of a family who disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only the echoes of their screams. But when a group of teenagers decides to spend the night in the house, they quickly realize that the rumors were just the beginning of the horrors that await them. As the group of teenagers gathers outside the house, they dare each other to spend the night inside, eager to prove their bravery. With nervous laughter and shaky hands, they push open the creaking door and step inside, their hearts pounding in their chests. Little do they know they're about to come face to face with the horrors that lie within. As the teenagers explore the house, they feel an oppressive presence weighing down on them, a sense of malevolence that seems to seep from the very walls. They hear whispers in the darkness and catch fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures out of the corners of their eyes. Fear grips them tight as they realize they're not alone in the house. As the night wears on, the teenagers uncover clues about the house's dark past. A family torn apart by tragedy, their spirits trapped within the walls for eternity. They find old photographs and newspaper clippings, piecing together the story of the family's demise. But as they delve deeper, they awaken something sinister that has been lying dormant for years. As the night progresses, the house comes alive with paranormal activity. Doors slam shut on their own, objects move of their own accord, and ghostly apparitions appear in the darkness. The teenagers huddle together, their screams echoing through the empty halls as they realize they're trapped in a nightmare from which there's no escape. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the teenagers make a final stand against the evil that haunts the house. Armed with makeshift weapons and fierce determination, they confront the ghostly apparitions that roam the halls, knowing that their survival depends on their ability to banish the darkness that lurks within. As dawn breaks, the paranormal activity subsides, and the house falls silent once more. The teenagers emerge from that darkness, battered and bruised but alive. They exchange weary smiles, knowing that they've faced their fears and emerged stronger for it. Though the scars of their ordeal will never fully heal, they take solace in the knowledge that they've conquered the darkness that once threatened to consume them. James, a middle-aged man who recently lost his job, receives an unexpected letter. It's an invitation to visit Willow Creek, a small town where his late grandmother owned an old, decrepit house. Intrigued and in need of a change, he decides to visit the house with his wife, Sarah, and their teenage daughter, Emma. "Why have we never heard of this place before?" Sarah asks, reading the letter again. James shrugs. "I guess it was forgotten, just like Grandma." Emma, excited by the idea of an adventure, chimes in, "I can't wait to see what it's like." The family arrives at Willow Creek after a long drive. The town is eerily quiet, with old, abandoned buildings lining the streets. They finally reach the house, which stands at the end of a narrow, overgrown road. The house is large, Gothic, and appears to have been untouched for decades. "This place is giving me the creeps," Sarah whispers, holding Emma's hand. James tries to reassure them. "It's just old. Let's see what's inside." Inside, the house is dark and filled with dust. The furniture is covered in white sheets, and cobwebs hang from the ceiling. As they explore, Emma finds an old diary in one of the bedrooms. "Look at this, Mom," Emma says, flipping through the pages. Sarah reads aloud, "June 12th, 1923. Strange noises keep me awake at night. I fear the spirits are restless." James frowns. "Spirits?" That night, the family tries to sleep, but strange noises echo through the house. Doors creak, and distant whispers can be heard. Emma wakes up in the middle of the night, feeling a cold breeze. She sees a shadowy figure at the foot of her bed. "Dad, is that you?" she whispers, but the figure vanishes. Emma runs to her parents' room, terrified. "Mom, Dad, there's someone in my room!" The next day, the family visits the local library to learn more about the house. They discover that it was built by a wealthy family in the 1800s. But tragedy struck when the entire family mysteriously disappeared. "This place has a dark history," Sarah says, reading an old newspaper article. James nods. "We need to find out what happened." Emma adds, "Maybe the diary has more clues." Back at the house, James finds a hidden door in the basement. Inside, they discover a room filled with old photographs, letters, and strange symbols drawn on the walls. There's also a large locked chest. These symbols look like some kind of ritual, Sarah says, tracing them with her finger. James tries to open the chest. We need to find the key. Emma points to a photograph. Look, that's the family that lived here. That night, the hauntings become more intense. Objects move on their own, and ghostly apparitions appear. Emma is dragged out of bed by an unseen force, and Sarah sees a figure standing at the end of the hallway watching them. We need to leave now, Sarah screams, but the doors are locked and won't open. James grabs the diary and starts reading the last entry. We must complete the ritual to appease the spirits. Desperate, the family gathers in the basement to perform the ritual described in the diary. They light candles and arrange the symbols in a circle. James reads the incantation aloud, while Sarah and Emma hold hands, trembling. As the ritual progresses, the house shakes and the spirits grow more agitated. A blinding light fills the room, and the spirits are drawn into the circle, screaming. Keep going, James, Sarah yells over the noise. With a final shout, James completes the incantation and the spirits vanish. The house falls silent. The next morning, the house feels different. The oppressive atmosphere is gone and sunlight streams through the windows. The family packs up their belongings, relieved that the ordeal is over. We should tell the authorities about this place, Sarah says, looking back at the house. James nods. Let's make sure no one else has to go through this. They drive away, leaving Willow Creek behind. Back home, life seems to return to normal. But one night, Emma finds the old diary on her bedside table, even though she left it in the house. Her heart races as she opens it, and a cold breeze fills the room. A whispering voice fills the air. You cannot escape the past. Emma turns to see a shadowy figure standing in the corner, its eyes glowing with malevolence. She screams as the room plunges into darkness. On a chilly autumn evening, 4 friends, Mark, Lisa, Danny, and Sophie, arrived at the small, deserted village of Hollow Creek. They had heard rumors of a haunting and wanted to investigate. The village was eerily quiet, with mist curling around the old, decaying buildings. The friends walked through the empty streets, their footsteps echoing. They saw abandoned houses, broken street lamps, and overgrown gardens. As they explored, they noticed strange symbols carved into the doors and walls of the houses. They found an old inn at the center of the village. The door creaked as they pushed it open. Inside, the inn was dark and cold. Dust covered the furniture and a musty smell filled the air. They decided to stay there for the night, hoping to uncover the village's secrets. As night fell, the friends gathered in the main room of the inn. They set up their sleeping bags and lit a small fire in the fireplace. The flickering light cast eerie shadows on the walls. They heard faint whispers and creaks, but dismissed them as the old building settling. At midnight, Sophie woke up to a strange noise. She saw a figure standing at the foot of her sleeping bag. She screamed, waking the others. The figure vanished, but the friends could still feel its presence. They huddled together, too scared to sleep. The next morning, they decided to search the inn for clues. In an old chest, they found a diary. It belonged to a girl named Emily who lived in the village decades ago. Her last entry spoke of a dark presence that haunted Hollow Creek, driving the villagers away. As they read the diary, they learned that Emily had tried to summon spirits to help the village, but something went wrong. Instead of help, she had unleashed a malevolent entity. The friends realized that the haunting was real, and they were in grave danger. Suddenly, the room grew cold. The friends could see their breath in the air. The entity appeared before them, a dark, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. It moved towards them, whispering in a language they couldn't understand. Panic set in as they tried to find a way out. Mark found an old key in the diary. Desperate, he used it on a hidden door they hadn't noticed before. The door led to a tunnel beneath the inn. The friends rushed through the tunnel, the entity's whispers echoing behind them. They emerged outside, gasping for breath. The friends didn't stop running until they were far from Hollow Creek. Exhausted and terrified, they vowed never to speak of what happened. As they left, they could still hear the faint whispers of the entity, warning them never to return.
Emily, Jake, and Sarah arrived at Blackwood Manor, an ancient, crumbling estate shrouded in mist. The manor had been abandoned for decades, and stories of its haunting were legendary. They were there to document the paranormal activity for their online show. "This place is seriously creepy," Sarah said, shivering as she stepped out of the car. "That's the point," Jake replied, setting up his camera. "The spookier, the better." Emily led the way up the overgrown path to the front door, her excitement mixed with unease. "Let's get inside and start setting up." Inside the manor, the air was thick with dust and the smell of decay. The grand hall was filled with old furniture, draped in white sheets. As they explored, they found evidence of the past: old portraits, tattered books, and broken artifacts. "Look at this," Sarah said, picking up an old locket. "It must have belonged to someone important." Jake filmed everything, capturing the unsettling atmosphere. "This is going to be great footage." Emily found an old diary on a dusty table. "This might tell us what happened here." Emily read aloud from the diary, which detailed the tragic story of the Blackwood family. They had practiced dark rituals, summoning spirits that ultimately led to their downfall. The diary ended abruptly, hinting at a terrible event. "This is so creepy," Sarah said, looking around nervously. "We need to document everything," Jake insisted. "This is gold." As Emily closed the diary, a sudden chill filled the room. The lights flickered, and they heard a distant whisper. "Did you hear that?" Emily asked, her voice shaking. A shadow moved across the hall, catching their attention. They followed it to a room at the end of the corridor. Inside, the temperature dropped dramatically, and they saw a figure standing by the window. "Who's there?" Jake called out, but there was no response. The figure turned slowly, revealing a face twisted with pain and anger. It lunged at them, and they ran, slamming the door behind them. "We need to get out of here," Sarah screamed. "Not yet," Emily said, her fear giving way to determination. "We have to finish what we started." Emily found instructions for a banishment ritual in the diary. They gathered candles, chalk, and other items needed for the ritual. The air was thick with tension as they worked quickly, knowing the spirit could return at any moment. "Are you sure this will work?" Jake asked, lighting the candles. "It has to," Emily replied, drawing a circle on the floor. "We don't have any other choice." Sarah stood guard, her eyes darting around the room. "Hurry up. I don't want to be here any longer than we have to." As they began the ritual, the spirit returned, more furious than before. It howled and thrashed against the invisible barrier created by the circle. Emily chanted the incantation from the diary, her voice growing stronger with each word. "Keep it away from us," Sarah yelled, clutching a candle. "We're almost there," Emily shouted back, her focus unwavering. The spirit's form began to waver and dissolve as the ritual reached its climax. With one final desperate scream, it vanished into thin air. The friends collapsed to the floor, exhausted but relieved. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a peaceful silence. "We did it," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let's get out of here," Sarah urged, her eyes still wide with fear. They gathered their things and left the manor, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon. As they walked away from Blackwood Manor, they felt a sense of triumph and relief. "Let's never do this again," Jake said, managing a weak smile. As they walked away from the manor, the sun rose higher, casting a warm glow over the forest. The manor behind them was now just a distant memory, a place they would never forget but never return to. "Let's make a pact," Emily said, stopping to look at her friends. "We never speak of this again." "Agreed," Jake and Sarah said in unison. They walked on, the past behind them and the future ahead, grateful to have survived the haunting of Blackwood Manor.
Ravenswood Manor was infamous in the small town of Crestwood. Emily, a curious historian, decided to explore the mansion for her research on haunted houses. She arrived just as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the old, decrepit building. The iron gates creaked as she pushed them open, feeling a chill run down her spine. Emily pushed open the heavy wooden door, which groaned loudly. Inside, the mansion was dark and musty. Dust covered the floor, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. She turned on her flashlight, revealing a grand but neglected foyer. Her footsteps echoed ominously as she walked down the main hallway, her breath visible in the cold air. As Emily explored, she noticed the shadows on the walls seemed to move independently of the light. She heard faint whispers like a distant conversation. Her heart raced as she spun around, but the hall was empty. Determined to continue, she pressed on, feeling the unseen eyes watching her every move. A dimly lit dining room with a large old portrait of a stern-looking woman hanging on the wall. The eyes in the painting appear to follow Emily as she moves. Emily stands close to the painting, looking at it with a mix of curiosity and fear. The room feels cold, with visible breath in the air, adding to the chilling atmosphere. A dark, dusty basement with strange symbols painted on the walls and old books scattered on a table. Emily stands in the center, holding a journal and reading it with a look of horror and fascination. The atmosphere is mysterious and filled with an air of dark secrets and ancient curses. As Emily read the journal, the basement grew colder. A ghostly figure of Eliza Ravenswood appeared, her face twisted with rage. She pointed at Emily and screamed, "You should not have come here!" The walls shook, and the air filled with a chilling wind. Emily knew she had to leave immediately. Emily bolted up the stairs, the spirit's screams echoing behind her. She raced through the mansion, the walls seeming to close in on her. She burst through the front door and into the night, gasping for breath. The house stood silent and still, but she could feel the weight of its curse pressing down on her. Back in her apartment, Emily reviewed the photos and notes she had taken. The evidence of the haunting was undeniable. She wrote her article, revealing the dark history of Ravenswood Manor. As she finished, she felt a cold draft and heard Eliza's voice whisper, "You cannot escape the curse." She knew the haunting was far from over. A narrow path winds its way into the heart of the dense forest, the trees towering overhead like ancient guardians. As the sun dips below the horizon, long shadows stretch across the forest floor, setting a sinister tone for what lies ahead. Within the depths of the forest lies a moonlit clearing, bathed in an ethereal glow. The towering trees encircle the space, their branches swaying in an unsettling silence. Wisps of fog creep along the ground, adding to the eerie atmosphere of the secluded grove. Amidst the darkness stands an abandoned cabin, its once sturdy structure now crumbling under the weight of neglect. Boarded-up windows and sagging roof shingles give it a desolate appearance, while the encroaching vines seem to reclaim it for nature. The air is heavy with a palpable sense of unease. The forest path twists and turns, disappearing into the inky darkness of the woods. Twisted roots snake across the forest floor, tripping hazards in the dim light. Above, the canopy creates eerie patterns of shadow and light, adding to the sense of disorientation and dread. Within the depths of the forest flows the Whispering Brook, its gentle waters shimmering in the pale moonlight. Overhanging branches sway in the night breeze, casting eerie shadows that dance upon the surface of the water. Despite its serene appearance, an underlying sense of unease lingers in the air. Deep within the forest lies a forgotten graveyard, its weathered tombstones bearing silent witness to the passage of time. Wisps of mist cling to the ground, shrouding the graves in an otherworldly haze. The air is thick with the weight of forgotten souls, their presence palpable in the stillness of the night. A decaying bridge stretches across a gaping chasm, its once sturdy structure now a maze of rusted metal and rotting wood. The sound of creaking echoes through the night as the bridge sways precariously in the breeze. Moonlight filters through the gaps, casting unsettling shadows upon the turbulent waters below. A grove of twisted trees stands in the heart of the forest, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Wisps of fog weave between the trunks, and the air is thick with an oppressive silence. In the depths of the forest stands a forsaken well, its stone walls weathered by time and neglect. Moss and ivy cling.
Ravenwood Manor had always been shrouded in mystery and fear. On a cold, misty evening, Alex, a young journalist with a thirst for the unknown, arrived at the manor. The gates were rusty and covered in ivy, and as Alex pushed them open, they creaked ominously. The mansion loomed in the distance, its dark windows staring back like lifeless eyes. Alex pushed open the heavy wooden door, which groaned in protest. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the scent of decay. He turned on his flashlight, revealing a grand but dilapidated foyer. Dust-covered chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and old furniture lay draped in white sheets. His footsteps echoed in the vast, empty space as he ventured deeper inside. As Alex explored the mansion, he felt a sudden chill. Turning around, he saw a shadowy figure at the end of the hallway. The figure vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving his heart racing. Determined to find answers, he made his way to the library, hoping to uncover the mansion's dark past. In the library, Alex found rows of dusty old books. As he searched through them, he heard faint whispers and the sound of pages turning on their own. He discovered an old journal belonging to the mansion's original owner, Lord Ravenwood. The entries spoke of dark rituals and a curse that had been placed on the house and its inhabitants. Alex's exploration led him to a room filled with mirrors. As he walked through, his reflection seemed to move on its own, eyes following him with an unsettling intensity. One mirror in particular caught his attention. In it, he saw the ghostly figure of a woman crying, her eyes pleading for help. Alex reached out to touch the mirror, but the image vanished. Alex discovered a hidden door behind a tattered curtain in the study. He descended the creaky stairs into a dark, musty basement. The room was filled with strange symbols painted on the walls and old, dusty books scattered on a table. He found a journal detailing the dark rituals and a curse placed on the house by Lord Ravenwood. As Alex read the journal, the basement grew colder. A ghostly figure of Lord Ravenwood appeared, his face twisted with rage. He pointed at Alex and screamed, "You should not have come here!" The walls shook, and the air filled with a chilling wind. Alex knew he had to leave immediately. Alex bolted up the stairs, the spirit's screams echoing behind him. He raced through the mansion, the walls seeming to close in on him. He burst through the front door and into the night, gasping for breath. The house stood silent and still, but he could feel the weight of its curse pressing down on him. Back in his apartment, Alex reviewed the photos and notes he had taken. The evidence of the haunting was undeniable. He wrote his article, revealing the dark history of Ravenwood Manor. As he finished, he felt a cold draft and heard Lord Ravenwood's voice whisper, "You cannot escape the curse." Alex knew the haunting was far from over.
In the dead of night, a group of friends, Sarah, Mark, and Emily, arrive at the imposing Ravenswood Manor, a sprawling mansion nestled deep within the forest. The moon casts an eerie glow over the overgrown grounds as they approach the decrepit mansion, drawn by tales of its haunted past. As they step through the creaking front door, the group is enveloped by darkness. The air is thick with dust, and the floorboards groan beneath their feet. Sarah lights a lantern, casting flickering shadows on the walls as they explore the abandoned foyer. As they venture further into the mansion, they are greeted by the sound of whispers echoing through the hallways. The walls seem to close in around them, and Sarah's lantern flickers ominously. They exchange nervous glances, but press on, determined to uncover the secrets of Ravenswood Manor. In the heart of the mansion, they discover a forgotten library, its shelves lined with dusty tomes and ancient manuscripts. Emily's heart races as she picks up a weathered book, its pages filled with cryptic symbols and arcane rituals. Suddenly, a cold breeze fills the room, and the books on the shelves begin to sway as if moved by unseen hands. As they explore further, they come across a portrait hanging on the wall, a grim-faced man with piercing eyes that seem to follow their every move. Mark shudders as he gazes into the man's cold, lifeless eyes, and Sarah quickly averts her gaze, unable to shake the feeling of being watched. As night falls, the mansion comes alive with ghostly apparitions and otherworldly sounds. Emily's heart races as she catches a glimpse of a figure moving in the shadows, its form shifting and indistinct. She cries out in fear, and the others rush to her side, their lanterns casting shaky light on the empty hallway. As the night wears on, the group's sanity begins to fray. They are plagued by visions and nightmares, their minds filled with images of death and despair. Sarah clutches her head in agony as she hears voices whispering in the darkness, urging her to embrace the madness that lurks within Ravenswood Manor. In a desperate bid to escape the madness that grips them, the group confronts the malevolent force that haunts Ravenswood Manor. With trembling hands, they perform a ritual to banish the darkness, their voices raised in a desperate plea for salvation. And as the first light of dawn breaks through the windows, The mansion shudders and groans, the darkness receding into the shadows from whence it came.
In a quaint lakeside town, Sarah and Chris arrive at a secluded cabin for a weekend getaway. The air is crisp, and the lake shimmers in the sunlight. Excited for a peaceful retreat, they unload their bags and set foot into the cabin. As Sarah and Chris settle into the cabin, they notice strange occurrences: a flickering light, doors creaking on their own. Sarah brushes it off as quirks of an old cabin, but Chris grows increasingly uneasy. Something feels off about the place. Curiosity gets the best of them, and Sarah and Chris decide to explore the surrounding woods. The trees seem to whisper secrets as they wander deeper into the forest. The atmosphere grows thick with tension, and Sarah can't shake the feeling they're being watched. Lost in the woods, Sarah and Chris stumble upon an abandoned shack. It's dilapidated, covered in moss and ivy. Despite Chris's protests, Sarah insists on investigating. Inside, they find cryptic symbols scrawled on the walls. As night falls, Sarah is plagued by vivid nightmares, a ghostly figure beckoning from the darkness, whispering cryptic warnings. She wakes in a cold sweat, shaken to her core. Chris tries to comfort her, but the feeling of dread lingers. Desperate for answers, Sarah and Chris return to the lake. The water is still and murky, reflecting the night sky like a black mirror. Sarah feels a chill run down her spine as she stares into its depths, sensing an ancient presence lurking beneath the surface. In a moment of recklessness, Sarah decides to confront the entity haunting them. She ventures into the woods alone, following the whispers that lead her deeper into the darkness. Chris follows, desperate to protect her from whatever lurks within. In the heart of the forest, Sarah and Chris come face to face with the source of the haunting, a restless spirit trapped in Willow Lake for centuries. It pleads for release, its voice echoing through the trees. Sarah and Chris realize they must help the spirit find peace before it's too late. With a heavy heart, Sarah and Chris perform a ritual to release the spirit from its earthly bonds. The air crackles with magic as they recite ancient incantations, channeling their energy into the lake. As the last words are spoken, a blinding light fills the forest, and the spirit ascends, finally finding peace. As dawn breaks over Willow Lake, Sarah and Chris emerge from the forest, weary but victorious. The haunted whispers have faded, replaced by the soothing sounds of nature. They share a knowing glance, grateful for the bond that brought them through the darkness. In the dead of night, a narrow road winds its way through the dense Blackwood forest. 4 friends, Jack, Emily, Luke, and Mia, embark on a road trip, their headlights cutting through the thick fog that blankets the eerie landscape. Tall trees loom on either side, casting long, ominous shadows. As they journey deeper into the forest, they come upon the imposing gates of Blackwood Manor, a dilapidated mansion rumored to be haunted by vengeful spirits. The wrought iron gates groan open ominously as they approach, revealing the decaying facade of the mansion beyond. Inside Blackwood Manor, the foyer is shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by the faint glow of moonlight filtering through stained glass windows. Dust motes dance in the air as the friends cautiously make their way further into the mansion, the floorboards creaking beneath their feet. In their exploration, they stumble upon a library filled with ancient tomes and tattered manuscripts. The shelves groan under the weight of countless volumes, their spines cracked and faded. As they browse the dusty shelves, they hear whispered voices echoing through the room, sending shivers down their spines. Suddenly, ghostly figures materialize before them, translucent apparitions with hollow eyes and outstretched hands. The spirits drift through the library, their movements graceful yet unsettling. The friends watch in horror as the ghosts draw closer, their presence filling the room with a chilling aura. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the friends turn and flee from Blackwood Manor, their hearts pounding with terror. They race through the darkened halls, their breath ragged and their footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind them, the ghostly apparitions follow, their unearthly wails growing fainter as the friends struggle to escape. Exhausted and trembling, the friends emerge from Blackwood Manor, their minds reeling from the horrors they've witnessed. They collapse on the ground outside, their bodies shaking with adrenaline and fear. As the first light of dawn breaks through the trees, they share a moment of relief, knowing they have survived the night and escaped the clutches of Blackwood Manor. Emma, a young writer in her late 20s, inherits Blackwood Manor from her estranged grandmother. The manor is located on the outskirts of a small town, surrounded by dense, dark woods. Emma decides to move in, hoping the isolation will inspire her writing. As she arrives, she feels an eerie chill. The mansion, with its tall spires and ivy-covered walls, seems to loom over her ominously. Despite her unease, Emma is determined to make this her new home. On her first night, Emma struggles to sleep. The house is filled with strange noises: the creaking of floorboards, the whisper of the wind through cracks in the windows, and distant, indistinct whispers. She hears what sounds like footsteps outside her bedroom door, but when she checks, no one is there. She returns to bed, her mind racing with unease and exhaustion. The next day, while exploring the house, Emma discovers a locked door in the attic. Curious, she searches the house and finds an old rusty key hidden in a drawer. She uses the key to unlock the door and finds a small room filled with old furniture, cobwebs, and a large ornate mirror covered with a cloth. Emma removes the cloth from the mirror and, to her shock, sees the reflection of a young girl standing behind her. When she turns around, no one is there. The mirror begins to show disturbing images of past events in the house, including a girl being trapped and crying for help. Emma feels a chill run down her spine. Determined to find out more, Emma searches the house and finds an old diary hidden behind a loose brick in the fireplace. The diary belonged to her grandmother and details a tragic story of a girl named Lily who lived in the house and mysteriously disappeared. Emma realizes the ghost she saw is Lily, trapped in the mirror. Emma decides to perform a seance to communicate with Lily's spirit. She sets up candles and chants words from the diary. The room grows cold, and Lily's ghost appears, revealing that she was trapped by a dark ritual performed by Emma's grandmother. Lily begs Emma to free her. Following Lily's instructions, Emma gathers the items needed to break the ritual: a locket, a piece of Lily's clothing, and a special incantation. As she performs the ritual, the house shakes violently, and a dark, malevolent spirit tries to stop her. Emma persists, chanting the incantation louder and louder. The dark spirit attacks, but Emma continues the ritual, calling out to Lily for strength. A bright light fills the room, and the dark spirit screams before dissipating into nothingness. Lily's spirit smiles gratefully at Emma before ascending into the light, finally freed. With the haunting over, the house feels lighter and more welcoming. Emma finishes her novel, inspired by Lily's story. She decides to keep Blackwood Manor and transform it into a place of peace and creativity. Sitting on the porch, she feels a deep connection to the house and its history, ready for a new beginning.
At the end of a desolate road sits an abandoned house, its once grand facade now marred by neglect. Boarded-up windows and peeling paint tell the tale of years gone by, while dead trees loom overhead, casting ominous shadows upon the overgrown lawn. A narrow path winds its way through the dense forest, the branches overhead blocking out the moonlight and shrouding the surroundings in darkness. Roots protrude from the ground like gnarled fingers, creating trip hazards for any who dare to tread upon the shadowed path. In the heart of the forest lies a moonlit clearing, the soft light casting eerie shadows upon the ground. A sense of unease hangs heavy in the air, as if unseen eyes are watching from the darkness beyond. A derelict bridge spans a chasm, its rusted metal rails barely holding together against the ravages of time. The river below churns with a menacing intensity, its dark waters reflecting the moon's ghostly glow like a mirror into the abyss. Deep within the forest lies a forgotten cemetery, its tombstones weathered and worn with age. Wisps of mist cling to the ground, shrouding the graves in an otherworldly haze that seems to whisper secrets of the past. At the edge of the clearing stands an ancient well, its stone walls covered in moss and ivy that seem to writhe and twist in the moonlight. The darkness within seems to swallow all light, drawing the eye into its mysterious depths with an irresistible pull. Twisted trees loom overhead, their gnarled branches reaching out like grasping hands eager to ensnare the unwary. Shadows dance among the tangled foliage, casting strange shapes upon the forest floor and adding to the sense of foreboding that permeates the air. Sinister shadows stretch across the forest floor, their shifting forms creating an eerie tableau that seems to come alive in the darkness. The air is thick with the sound of whispered secrets, as if the very darkness itself is alive with malevolent intent. Deep within the forest lies a haunted glade, its twisted beauty a stark contrast to the surrounding darkness. Strange symbols adorn the trees, their meaning lost to time, and their presence adding to the sense of unease that permeates the air. As the first light of dawn breaks through the darkness, the forest is bathed in a warm glow that banishes the shadows and brings hope to the land. Birds sing in the trees, their joyful chorus heralding the arrival of a new day and chasing away the lingering echoes of the night. Blackwood Manor stood isolated at the edge of a dense forest, its Gothic architecture looming ominously against the darkening sky. Emily, a young journalist, arrived to investigate the mysterious disappearances that had plagued the manor for decades. Determined to uncover the truth, she parked her car and approached the grand yet decaying front doors. As Emily stepped inside, the door creaked loudly, echoing through the vast, dimly lit hall. Dust motes danced in the air, disturbed by her presence. The air was cold and an unsettling silence enveloped her. She turned on her flashlight, illuminating the grand staircase and the darkened corners of the hall. Emily walked into the living room, where old furniture lay shrouded in white sheets. A large fireplace dominated one wall, with an ornate mirror hanging above it. She felt a chill as she noticed a faint figure reflected in the mirror. But when she turned, the room was empty. The only sound was the faint ticking of an old grandfather clock. Emily found a long hallway lined with portraits of the Blackwood family. The eyes of the painted figures seemed to follow her as she walked. One portrait, in particular, caught her attention. A stern-looking woman with piercing eyes. Suddenly, Emily felt a cold hand on her shoulder. But when she turned around, there was no one there. The library was filled with ancient books and heavy wooden furniture. Emily felt drawn to an old leather-bound journal on a desk. As she opened it, she found entries detailing strange rituals and dark secrets of the Blackwood family. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly, and the whispers of unseen figures filled the air. Emily discovered a hidden door leading to the basement. As she descended the creaking stairs, the air grew colder and the darkness thicker. Her flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the damp walls. She heard distant, echoing whispers and the faint sound of footsteps following her. At the bottom of the stairs, Emily found a room filled with strange symbols and an altar. The air was thick with the scent of incense and decay. She realized this was where the Blackwood family had conducted their dark rituals. As she explored, she heard a low, menacing chant and felt an oppressive presence closing in on her. Emily's flashlight died, plunging her into darkness. The chanting grew louder, and ghostly figures emerged from the shadows. She felt a cold hand grip her arm, pulling her towards the altar. Summoning her courage, she broke free and ran up the stairs, the spirit's wails echoing behind her. Emily burst out of Blackwood Manor, gasping for breath. The night was still and silent, a stark contrast to the horrors inside. Clutching the journal, she vowed to expose the truth about the Blackwood family. As she walked away, she glanced back one last time, seeing the faint outline of a figure watching her from an upstairs window.
Emma, a young woman in her late 20s, inherits an old mansion called Oakwood Manor from her estranged aunt. She decides to visit the house, hoping to sell it quickly. As she arrives, she feels an unsettling chill in the air. The house, surrounded by towering oak trees, looks like it hasn't been touched in decades. On her first night in the house, Emma explores the dusty, dimly lit rooms. She finds a family portrait with a stern-looking woman who resembles her aunt. As she prepares for bed, she hears strange noises, whispers and footsteps echoing through the empty hallways. The next day, Emma discovers a locked room at the end of the hallway. Curious, she searches the house and finds an old, rusty key in a drawer. The key fits, and as she opens the door, she finds an old nursery filled with cobweb-covered toys and an old rocking chair that starts moving on its own. That night, Emma is awakened by a cold breeze and sees a ghostly figure of a child standing by her bed. The child whispers, "Help me." Terrified, Emma tries to communicate, but the figure vanishes. She realizes the house holds dark secrets that need to be uncovered. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma searches the house and finds a hidden diary in the nursery. The diary belonged to her aunt and reveals a tragic story about the death of a child named Lily, who was her aunt's daughter. The diary hints at dark rituals conducted to communicate with Lily's spirit. Emma decides to perform a seance to contact Lily's spirit. She sets up candles and chants the words from the diary. The room grows cold, and Lily's ghost appears, revealing that she was trapped by her mother's rituals. Lily begs Emma to free her. Emma follows the diary's instructions to break the ritual. As she performs the final steps, the house shakes violently, and a dark shadow emerges, trying to stop her. Emma confronts the shadow, realizing it's her aunt's tormented spirit, refusing to let Lily go. With determination, Emma completes the ritual, and the shadow dissipates with a final, anguished scream. Lily's spirit is freed, and she smiles gratefully at Emma before disappearing into a bright light. The house grows calm and quiet. With the haunting over, Emma decides to stay at Oakwood Manor and turn it into a writer's retreat. She feels a deep connection to the house and its history. As she sits on the porch, the sun sets, casting a warm glow over the once haunted mansion. On a foggy night, 4 friends, Jake, Emily, Noah, and Lisa, stood outside the iron gates of Redwood Manor. The mansion was infamous for being haunted, and they had decided to spend the night there as a dare. They pushed open the heavy front door, which groaned loudly. Inside, the house was dark and dusty. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and old portraits watched them from the walls. They moved into the living room, where a grand piano stood in one corner and a large, broken chandelier hung from the ceiling. Suddenly, the piano played a single, eerie note, making them all jump. They cautiously climbed the creaky staircase to the second floor. The hallway was long and dark, with several closed doors. A cold breeze made them shiver, and they heard faint, eerie whispers. They opened one door and found an old nursery. Dusty toys were scattered around, and a rocking chair in the corner started moving on its own. They heard a child's laughter echoing through the room. Panicked, they ran downstairs and found a door leading to the basement. Despite their fear, they decided to investigate. The basement was even darker and colder. Strange symbols were drawn on the walls, and old furniture was strewn around. In the basement, they heard footsteps behind them. Turning around, they saw the ghostly figure of a woman in a tattered dress. Her hollow eyes stared at them as she whispered, "Leave this place." Screaming, they ran up the stairs and out of the house. The door slammed shut behind them, and they could still hear the ghostly whispers. They vowed never to return to Redwood Manor. Back at home, the friends sat together, still shaken by their experience. They knew they had encountered something truly terrifying and agreed never to speak of it again. Emma, a writer in her early 30s, moves into an old Victorian house in Willow Creek. She hopes the secluded house will help her overcome her writer's block. As she steps into the house, the air feels heavy, and she hears faint whispers echoing through the empty rooms. On her first night, Emma struggles to sleep. The house creaks and groans as if it's alive. She hears footsteps in the hallway, but when she checks, there's no one there. Her unease grows, but she convinces herself it's just the house settling. While exploring the attic, Emma finds an old diary belonging to a girl named Lily. The diary speaks of strange occurrences and a tragic story of how Lily disappeared without a trace. Emma feels a chill run down her spine as she reads the last unfinished entry. The following night, the whispers return, clearer and more urgent. Shadows flicker and move on their own. Emma sees a ghostly figure of a young girl in the hallway, who vanishes as soon as she approaches. Fear takes hold of her. Terrified, Emma reaches out to the town's historian, Mr. Thompson. He tells her about the legend of Lily, a girl who disappeared many years ago. The house has a history of hauntings, and no one has lived there for long. Emma realizes she must uncover the truth to find peace. Determined, Emma performs a seance to communicate with Lily's spirit. As she calls out, the room grows cold, and the ghostly figure of Lily appears. Lily reveals she was murdered, and begs for Emma's help to find her remains and put her to rest. Following Lily's clues, Emma discovers a hidden cellar beneath the house. There she finds Lily's remains and a locket with her name. Emma feels a mix of horror and relief, knowing she can finally help Lily find peace. Emma arranges a proper burial for Lily. As she places the locket in Lily's grave, a sense of calm envelops the area. The whispers cease and the house feels lighter. Emma feels a deep sense of closure and knows she has done the right thing. With the haunting over, Emma finishes her novel, inspired by Lily's story. The house no longer feels oppressive. Instead, it's filled with a comforting, serene atmosphere. Emma sits by the window looking out at the sunny landscape, ready to start a new chapter in her life. On a dark, windy night, 4 friends, Tom, Alice, Sam, and Lucy, stood at the entrance of an old abandoned mansion on Hollow Hill. They were dared to spend the night inside the house, which was rumored to be haunted. They pushed open the heavy front door, which creaked loudly. Inside, the house was dark and filled with dust. Old furniture was covered in white sheets, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. They entered the living room, where an old dusty couch sat under a large broken window. A grand piano stood in the corner, its keys covered in dust. Suddenly, the piano played a single eerie note, making them jump. They decided to explore upstairs. The wooden stairs creaked with each step. At the top, they found a long hallway with several closed doors. A cold breeze made them shiver as they heard a faint whispering sound. They opened one of the doors and found a room with old children's toys scattered on the floor. The air was freezing, and the rocking chair in the corner started to move on its own. They heard a child's laughter echoing around them. Panicked, they ran downstairs and found a door leading to the basement. Despite their fear, they decided to investigate. The basement was colder and darker, with a damp smell. They found strange symbols on the walls. In the basement, they heard footsteps behind them. Turning around, they saw the ghostly figure of a woman in a tattered dress. She looked at them with hollow eyes and whispered, "Leave this place." Screaming, they ran up the stairs and out of the house. The door slammed shut behind them, and they could still hear the ghostly whispers. They vowed never to return to Hollow Hill. Back at home, the friends sat together, still shaken by their experience. They knew they had encountered something truly terrifying and agreed to never speak of it again.
The old house stood at the end of the lonely street, its windows shattered and its wooden walls weathered by time. Sarah had heard stories about the house since she was a child. It was said to be haunted, a place where shadows whispered secrets and the air was thick with dread. Determined to prove it was all just a myth, she decided to spend the night there. As Sarah pushed open the creaking door, the musty smell of decay hit her. The interior was dark, with only the faintest light filtering through the grimy windows. She stepped inside, the floorboards groaning under her weight. Every corner seemed to be alive with whispers, just out of reach. Sarah moved cautiously into the living room. The furniture was covered in dust and cobwebs draped from the ceiling. An old grandfather clock stood against the wall, its hands frozen at midnight. As she looked around, she heard a faint whispering, like someone speaking from the shadows. On the wall hung a portrait of a stern-looking man. His eyes seemed to follow Sarah as she moved. She felt a chill run down her spine. The whispers grew louder, and for a moment, she thought she saw the man's eyes blink. She stepped back in fear, her heart racing. Sarah found herself drawn to a door partially hidden behind a tattered curtain. She hesitated before pulling it open, revealing a set of stairs leading down into the darkness. The whispers were clearer now, urging her to descend. With trembling hands, she held her flashlight and began her descent. The basement was cold and damp, the walls lined with old shelves holding dusty jars and forgotten relics. The whispers were louder here, almost tangible. Sarah felt a presence behind her and spun around but saw nothing. Suddenly, an old radio crackled to life, playing a haunting lullaby. Sarah's flashlight flickered and died. In the darkness, she felt something brush against her arm. She backed away, stumbling over an old trunk. The whispers were deafening now. She managed to open the trunk, revealing an old diary. The pages told the story of a man who had lost his family and descended into madness, cursing the house and anyone who entered. Realizing the danger, Sarah grabbed the diary and rushed up the stairs. The house seemed to come alive, the whispers turning into screams. Doors slammed shut around her, and the air grew colder. She reached the front door and burst out into the night, the whispers fading behind her. Outside, Sarah collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. She looked back at the house, now silent and still. She knew she could never explain what happened, but she had the diary as proof. As she walked away, she heard one last whisper in the wind, promising that the shadows would always be watching.
Briarwood Manor stood silent and foreboding at the end of a long, winding road. Jane, a young historian, arrived just as the sun was setting. She had heard stories about the mansion's dark past and was determined to uncover the truth. As she approached the front door, the wind howled and the trees whispered ominously. Jane pushed open the heavy wooden door, which creaked loudly. The interior was dark and filled with the smell of dust and decay. She turned on her flashlight, revealing a grand but dilapidated foyer. The once beautiful chandeliers hung broken, and the walls were lined with tattered wallpaper. In the main hallway, Jane's flashlight beam fell on a large portrait of a stern-looking man. The eyes seemed to follow her as she moved. She felt a shiver run down her spine. Suddenly, a cold breeze blew through the hallway, and the portrait's expression changed to one of anger. Jane discovered a hidden door behind a bookshelf in the library. She pushed it open to find a small, secret room. The room was filled with old, dusty books and strange artifacts. In the center of the room was a table with a large, leather-bound journal. She opened it and began to read. The journal belonged to William Briarwood, the original owner of the manor. It detailed dark rituals and a pact with a malevolent spirit to gain wealth and power. The final entry mentioned a curse that would doom anyone who lived in the house. Jane realized the manor was haunted by the spirits of those sacrificed in the rituals. As Jane read the journal, she heard whispers around her. Ghostly figures of the sacrificed appeared, their faces twisted in agony. They warned her to leave before it was too late. The temperature in the room dropped, and Jane could see her breath. She knew she had to get out. Rushing to leave, Jane encountered the malevolent spirit of William Briarwood himself. He appeared at the top of the grand staircase, his eyes glowing with an evil light. He blocked her path, his voice echoing through the manor, threatening her for disturbing his peace. Jane ran through the dark hallways, the spirit close behind her. She burst through the front door and into the night. The manor seemed to sigh as she left, the wind howling around her. She didn't stop running until she reached her car. As she drove away, she could still feel the spirit's eyes on her. Safe in her apartment, Jane reviewed the footage she had captured. The images of the spirits and the journal entries were clear evidence of the haunting. She knew she had to share the story, but a part of her feared the curse might follow her. She felt a cold draft and shivered, wondering if she was truly safe. Lisa moves into her new apartment. The building is old but charming. As she unpacks, she finds a small, locked box in the back of a closet. Curious, she sets it aside to figure out how to open it later. That night, Lisa hears strange noises, whispers, and faint footsteps. She brushes it off as her imagination, but the noises persist, growing louder each night. She starts to feel uneasy. Unable to ignore the noises any longer, Lisa decides to focus on the box. She finds an old key hidden in the apartment and uses it to unlock the box. Inside, she discovers old photographs and a diary. Lisa reads the diary, which belonged to a woman named Margaret, who lived in the apartment years ago. The diary describes how Margaret was tormented by an unseen presence. Her final entry is a plea for help. Lisa begins to see strange things in mirrors, shadows moving, and a woman's face appearing briefly. One night, she sees Margaret's face clearly in the bathroom mirror, mouthing the words, "Help me." Frightened, Lisa seeks help from a local historian. He tells her about Margaret, who mysteriously disappeared. He believes Margaret's spirit is trapped and trying to communicate with Lisa. Determined to help Margaret, Lisa sets up a small shrine with candles and the photographs. She reads a passage from the diary aloud, asking Margaret to show her how to help. The room grows cold, and Margaret's ghost appears. Margaret's ghost leads Lisa to a hidden compartment in the floor. Inside, Lisa finds Margaret's skeletal remains. She calls the police, and they properly lay Margaret to rest. The haunting finally stops. With Margaret's remains found and given a proper burial, the apartment feels lighter. Lisa no longer hears the strange noises. She stands by the window, feeling at peace, knowing she helped Margaret find rest. Months later, a new tenant moves into the apartment. They find the diary Lisa left behind, with a note warning about the box. The apartment is now just a home, free from its dark past. On a foggy evening, 4 friends, Jess, Ryan, Maya, and Ethan, arrive at Blackwood Manor, an imposing mansion nestled deep within the woods. The moon casts an eerie glow over the ivy-covered walls as they approach, their footsteps muffled by the dense fog. Jess shivers, feeling a chill run down her spine. With a creak, the massive oak doors of Blackwood Manor swing open, revealing a dimly lit entryway. Cobwebs cling to the high ceiling, and dust dances in the beams of their flashlights as they cautiously step inside. The air is heavy with the scent of age and decay, sending shivers down their spines. Inside the mansion, they navigate a maze of hallways, each corridor seemingly darker and more foreboding than the last. Paint peels from the walls, and the floorboards groan beneath their weight. Strange symbols etched into the wood send shivers down their spines, and they quicken their pace, eager to uncover the mansion's secrets. As they explore, they begin to hear faint whispers that seem to emanate from the very walls of the mansion. The whispers grow louder and more insistent, filling the air with an unsettling chorus. The friends exchange uneasy glances, their senses on high alert as they try to decipher the ghostly messages. Suddenly, ghostly figures materialize before them, translucent apparitions with hollow eyes and outstretched hands. The ethereal beings float through the air, their movements graceful yet unsettling. The friends watch in horror as the spirits draw closer, their presence filling the mansion with a chilling aura. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the friends turn and flee from the mansion, their hearts pounding with terror. They race through the dark corridors, their breath ragged and their footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind them, the ghostly apparitions follow, their unearthly wails growing fainter as the friends struggle to escape. Exhausted and trembling, the friends burst through the door of the mansion, their minds reeling from the horrors they've witnessed. They collapse on the ground outside, their bodies shaking with adrenaline and fear. The moon casts a soft glow over the forest, a comforting reminder that they have escaped the clutches of Blackwood Manor.
As the sun sets, casting a crimson glow over the horizon, an imposing mansion stands silent and forsaken. Its once grand facade now weathered and covered in ivy, the mansion casts eerie shadows across the overgrown lawn, hinting at the secrets it holds within. In the neglected garden surrounding the mansion, tangled bushes and wilted flowers paint a haunting picture. Moonlight filters through the twisted branches of the trees, casting an ethereal glow upon patches of the eerie landscape, where shadows seem to dance in silent reverie. On the grand front porch of the mansion, once a beacon of opulence, now lies cracked and crumbling under the weight of time. Moonlight casts long shadows across the faded steps, adding to the sense of abandonment that permeates the air. Within the mansion's foyer, the dim light of dusty chandeliers flickers weakly, casting eerie shadows upon the tattered wallpaper. Moonlight filters through broken windows, illuminating cobweb-covered furniture that sits frozen in time, a silent witness to the mansion's descent into decay. In the cavernous ballroom of the mansion, the once glamorous dance floor now rots beneath neglect. Faded tapestries hang from the walls like forgotten memories, while moonlight streams through cracked skylights, casting ghostly patterns upon the abandoned space, as if the echoes of bygone celebrations still linger in the air. Within the mansion's library, the scent of dust hangs heavy in the air, mingling with the musty aroma of aging books. Tattered armchairs sit among shelves of ancient tomes, while moonlight filters through stained glass windows, casting colorful shadows upon the worn carpet that bears the weight of forgotten knowledge. In the dilapidated dining hall of the mansion, a long table lies buried beneath layers of cobwebs and neglect. Overturned chairs litter the floor, while moonlight streams through broken windows, casting an ethereal glow upon the decaying scene, where echoes of feasts long past still resonate in the silent air. Within the mansion's study, dusty bookshelves groan under the weight of forgotten knowledge, while forgotten artifacts gather dust in every corner. Moonlight filters weakly through dusty windows, casting long shadows upon the stacks of papers and abandoned furniture that clutter the room, where the ghosts of scholarly pursuits still linger in the darkness. In a desolate bedroom of the mansion, the once grand bed frame now sags under the weight of time, its faded curtains hanging limply from rusted rods. Moonlight filters weakly through cracked windows, casting eerie shadows upon the peeling walls, where whispers of dreams long forgotten still echo in the silent night. As dawn breaks over this mansion's overgrown backyard, The soft light of morning bathes the decaying structures in an ethereal glow. Mist rises from the damp earth, shrouding the forgotten corners of the estate in a veil of mystery, where the spirits of the past find solace in the dawn of a new day.
In the heart of a dense forest stands an abandoned manor, its crumbling facade veiled in mist. Four friends, Sarah, Mark, Emily, and Chris, venture into the woods one foggy evening, drawn by tales of the manor's dark history. As they approach, the mist thickens, obscuring the path ahead. With trepidation, the friends push open the creaking front door and step into the foyer of the manor. Cobwebs hang from the ceiling, and dust motes dance in the dim light. The air is heavy with a sense of foreboding as they explore further, the floorboards groaning beneath their feet. Inside the manor, they encounter long, twisting hallways lined with closed doors. Each room they enter is filled with dusty furniture and forgotten belongings. Strange symbols are etched into the walls, and a chill wind whispers through the corridors, sending shivers down their spines. As they delve deeper into the manor, they begin to hear faint whispers that seem to echo through the halls. The whispers grow louder and more insistent, filling the air with an eerie chorus. The friends exchange nervous glances, their hearts pounding in their chests as they try to locate the source of the haunting sounds. Suddenly, ghostly figures materialize before them, translucent apparitions with hollow eyes and outstretched hands. Their ethereal forms glide through the air, their movements slow and deliberate. The friends watch in horror as the spirits drift closer, their presence filling the manor with a chilling cold. With adrenaline driving them, the friends turn and flee from the manor, their hearts pounding with terror. They race through the dark corridors, their breath ragged and their footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind them, the ghostly spirits follow, their unearthly wails growing fainter as the friends struggle to escape. Exhausted and trembling, the friends emerge from the manor, their minds reeling from the horrors they've witnessed. They collapse on the grass outside, their bodies shaking with adrenaline and fear. As the first light of dawn breaks through the mist, they share a silent vow never to return to the haunted manor in the woods.
On a cold, windy night, four friends, John, Sarah, Mike, and Emily, arrive at an old abandoned house at the edge of town. They are curious about the rumors that the house is haunted and decide to explore. They push open the creaky front door and step inside. The air is cold and musty, the wooden floorboards creak under their feet, and they use their flashlights to see. In the living room, they find an old tattered couch and a dusty coffee table. On the wall, there is a large cracked mirror. Suddenly, they hear a whispering sound, but no one is there. They decide to explore upstairs. The staircase creaks loudly as they climb. The hallway is long and dark, with several closed doors. A cold breeze seems to come from nowhere, making them shiver. They open one of the doors and find a room with old children's toys scattered on the floor. The air is even colder here. Suddenly, a toy car moves on its own, and they hear a child's laughter. Frightened, they rush downstairs and find a door leading to the basement. They open it and descend into the darkness. The basement is damp and cold, with a feeling of dread in the air. In the basement, they find an old trunk. When they open it, a ghostly figure of a woman appears, her face twisted in sadness. She reaches out towards them, and they feel an icy chill. Terrified, they run up the stairs and out of the house. The door slams shut behind them, and they can still hear the whispers and laughter. They vow never to return. In a secluded forest, shrouded in mist, lies an ancient mansion rumored to be haunted. A group of friends, Emma, Mark, and Sarah, venture into the forest one chilly evening, drawn by the allure of the mansion's dark history. As they approach the mansion, they are greeted by an imposing wrought iron gate, its hinges creaking ominously in the chilly night air. The mansion looms before them, its grandeur faded and its windows like empty eyes staring out into the darkness. Inside the mansion, the air is thick with dust and the sound of creaking floorboards echoes through the empty halls. The friends explore room after room, their footsteps muffled by faded carpets and their voices swallowed by the oppressive silence. As they delve deeper into the mansion, they uncover signs of its dark past. Forgotten rooms filled with cobweb-covered furniture, secret passages hidden behind crumbling walls, and faded portraits of long-dead residents whose eyes seem to follow their every move. As night falls and shadows deepen, The mansion comes alive with strange noises and eerie whispers. The friends feel a presence lurking in the darkness, unseen but unmistakably malevolent, its icy fingers brushing against their skin like the chill of a grave. In a desperate bid to escape the mansion's grasp, the friends race through its labyrinthine halls, their hearts pounding and their breath coming in ragged gasps. But the mansion seems to have other plans, its corridors shifting and changing before their eyes, trapping them in a nightmarish maze from which there may be no escape. Cornered in the mansion's dark heart, the friends confront the malevolent force that has plagued them since their arrival. With a final desperate act of defiance, they banish the entity back into the shadows from whence it came, freeing themselves from its grasp and escaping into the night.
In the outskirts of town lies an abandoned asylum, its once imposing structure now dilapidated and haunting. Four friends, Tom, Lisa, Ben, and Emily, arrive at the asylum, drawn by its eerie reputation. They stand before the decrepit building, its windows broken and its facade crumbling. Inside the asylum, the air is thick with dust and decay, and the walls are lined with peeling paint. The friends navigate the dark hallways, their footsteps echoing off the walls. Strange whispers seem to fill the air, sending shivers down their spines. As they explore further, they stumble upon an operating room, its equipment rusted and covered in cobwebs. The air is thick with the scent of antiseptic, and the faint sound of footsteps echoes through the room. The friends feel as though they are being watched, and a sense of dread washes over them. Suddenly, ghostly figures materialize before them, translucent apparitions with hollow eyes and outstretched hands. The spirits float through the air, their movements graceful yet unsettling. The friends watch in horror as the ghosts draw closer, their presence filling the room with a chilling aura. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the friends turn and flee from the asylum, their hearts pounding with terror. They race through the dark corridors, their breath ragged and their footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind them, the ghostly apparitions follow, their unearthly wails growing fainter as the friends struggle to escape. Exhausted and trembling, the friends emerge from the asylum, their minds reeling from the horrors they've witnessed. They collapse on the ground outside, their bodies shaking with adrenaline and fear. The moon hangs low in the sky, casting a soft glow over the abandoned building, a reminder of the darkness they have escaped.
On a chilly autumn night, four friends, Jake, Emily, Noah, and Lisa, stood at the gate of Ravenswood Manor. The old house was rumored to be haunted, but they were determined to spend the night inside to prove their bravery. They pushed open the creaky front door and stepped into the foyer. The air was musty, and the only light came from their flashlights. Dust-covered furniture and cobwebs filled the room, adding to the eerie atmosphere. They moved into the living room, where a grand piano stood in one corner, and an old tattered sofa sat under a large broken window. Suddenly, the piano played a single, eerie note, making everyone jump. They cautiously climbed the creaky staircase to the second floor. The hallway was long and dark, with several closed doors. A cold breeze made them shiver, and they heard faint, eerie whispers. They opened one door and found an old nursery. Dusty toys were scattered around, and a rocking chair in the corner started moving on its own. They heard a child's laughter echoing through the room. Panicking, they ran downstairs and found a door leading to the basement. Despite their fear, they decided to investigate. The basement was even darker and colder. Strange symbols were drawn on the walls, and old furniture was strewn around. In the basement, they heard footsteps behind them. Turning around, they saw the ghostly figure of a woman in a tattered dress. Her hollow eyes stared at them as she whispered, "Leave this place." Screaming, they ran up the stairs and out of the house. The door slammed shut behind them, and they could still hear the ghostly whispers. They vowed never to return to Ravenswood Manor. Back at home, the friends sat together, still shaken by their experience. They knew they had encountered something truly terrifying and agreed never to speak of it again.
As dusk settles over the sleepy town, a car pulls up to the edge of Willow Lake, its waters shrouded in mist. Inside are four friends, Emma, Jake, Lily, and Max, seeking a weekend getaway at a lakeside cabin. The air is cool and still, and the only sound is the gentle lapping of water against the shore. The friends arrive at the lakeside cabin, a rustic wooden structure perched on the edge of the water. The moonlight reflects off the lake's surface, casting a shimmering path to the cabin's door. Excitement fills the air as they unload their belongings, eager to relax and unwind in the secluded setting. As night falls, the friends gather around a crackling fire outside the cabin, sharing stories and laughter. But as the hour grows late, a chill wind sweeps in from the lake, and a sense of unease settles over the group. Shadows dance among the trees, and the distant sound of a loon's call sends shivers down their spines. Suddenly, a thick fog rolls in from the lake, engulfing the cabin in a blanket of white. Visibility drops to almost nothing, and the friends find themselves disoriented and afraid. Strange shapes loom in the mist, and the sound of footsteps echoes through the fog. As the fog thickens, the friends begin to hear faint whispers that seem to emanate from the darkness itself. The whispers grow louder and more insistent, filling the air with an eerie chorus. The friends exchange nervous glances, their hearts pounding in their chests as they try to make sense of the haunting sounds. Suddenly, ghostly figures materialize in the fog, a spectral procession of ethereal beings with hollow eyes and outstretched hands. Their ghostly forms glide through the mist, their movements graceful yet haunting. The friends watch in horror as the spirits draw closer, their presence filling the night with dread. With a collective cry, the friends turn and flee from the cabin, their hearts pounding with terror. They race through the thick fog, branches clawing at their skin and roots tripping them up. Behind them, the ghostly spirits follow, their wails growing fainter as the friends struggle to escape. Exhausted and trembling, the friends emerge from the fog, their minds reeling from the horrors they've witnessed. They collapse on the shore of Willow Lake, their bodies shaking with adrenaline and fear. As the first light of dawn breaks through the mist, they share a solemn vow never to return to the haunted cabin by the lake.
Blackwood Manor had long been abandoned and forgotten, standing as a dark silhouette against the evening sky. On a chilly, misty night, Lily, a young and curious journalist, arrived to uncover the truth behind the rumors of hauntings. She parked her car at the rusted gates, feeling a mixture of excitement and dread. The mansion's windows stared back at her like soulless eyes. Lily pushed open the creaking door of Blackwood Manor. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the smell of decay. She turned on her flashlight, revealing a grand but dilapidated foyer. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and old furniture lay covered in white sheets. Her footsteps echoed in the vast, empty space as she ventured further inside. As Lily explored the mansion, she felt an icy breeze pass by her. Turning around, she saw a shadowy figure at the end of the hallway. The figure disappeared as quickly as it appeared, leaving her heart pounding. Determined to uncover more, she made her way to the library, hoping to find records of the mansion's history. In the library, Lily found rows of dusty old books. As she searched through them, she heard whispers and the sound of pages turning by themselves. She discovered an old journal belonging to the mansion's original owner, Lady Blackwood. The entry spoke of dark rituals and a curse that had been placed on the house and its inhabitants. Lily's exploration led her to a room filled with mirrors. As she walked through, her reflection seemed to move on its own, eyes following her with an unsettling intensity. One mirror in particular caught her attention. In it, she saw the ghostly figure of a woman crying, her eyes pleading for help. Lily reached out to touch the mirror, but the image vanished. Lily discovered a hidden door behind a tattered curtain in the study. She descended the creaky stairs into a dark, musty basement. The room was filled with strange symbols painted on the walls and old dusty books scattered on a table. She found a journal detailing the dark rituals and a curse placed on the house by Lady Blackwood. As Lily read the journal, the basement grew colder. A ghostly figure of Lady Blackwood appeared, her face twisted with rage. She pointed at Lily and screamed, "You should not have come here!" The walls shook, and the air filled with a chilling wind. Lily knew she had to leave immediately. Lily bolted up the stairs, the spirit's screams echoing behind her. She raced through the mansion, the walls seeming to close in on her. She burst through the front door and into the night, gasping for breath. The house stood silent and still, but she could feel the weight of its curse pressing down on her. Back in her apartment, Lily reviewed the photos and notes she had taken. The evidence of the haunting was undeniable. She wrote her article, revealing the dark history of Blackwood Manor. As she finished, she felt a cold draft and heard Lady Blackwood's voice whisper, You cannot escape the curse. Lily knew the haunting was far from over.
In the heart of a small rural town sits Willow Lake, shrouded in mist and surrounded by dense woods. The lake's surface reflects the moonlight, casting an eerie glow across the water. Nearby, an old abandoned cabin stands hidden among the trees, its windows boarded up and its walls covered in ivy. A group of adventurous teenagers, Tom, Sarah, Emma, and Alex, gather at the edge of Willow Lake, exchanging nervous glances. They've heard rumors of strange occurrences at the abandoned cabin and decide to spend the night there as a dare. With a mix of excitement and apprehension, they approach the cabin. The group reaches the cabin and cautiously pushes open the creaky door. Inside, the air is musty, and dust dances in the beams of their flashlights. Cobwebs adorn the corners, and the floorboards creak under their weight as they step further into the darkness. As they explore deeper into the cabin, they encounter decaying furniture and peeling wallpaper. Strange symbols are etched into the walls, and the temperature drops noticeably. A sense of unease settles over the group as they realize they are not alone in the cabin. Suddenly, a chilling wind sweeps through the cabin, extinguishing their flashlights. In the darkness, they hear whispers and footsteps, echoing from all directions. Panic sets in as a ghostly figure materializes before them, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. With terror driving them, the teenagers flee from the cabin, their screams echoing through the woods. They stumble blindly through the darkness, their hearts pounding in their chests. Behind them, the ghostly figure watches with a sinister grin, knowing it has claimed yet another victim. Eventually, the teenagers emerge from the woods, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and fear. They vow never to return to Willow Lake or the haunted cabin again, haunted by the memory of their terrifying encounter. But unknown to them, the ghostly figure still lurks in the shadows, waiting for its next victims.